and welcome to Real-Ationship Talk, the podcast hosted by yours truly, Teresha Young, relationship master coach, where we have open, non-judgmental, heart-to-heart conversations about love, self-love, self-care, dating, and relationships. And this is the first ever Real-Ationship Talk, the podcast episode. So I'm super excited to be welcoming my first guest, the wonderful, amazing Kinga Kovacs, who is a yoga teacher and practitioner, specializing in the field for over 12 years, I believe. And you say that you are also a forever student yourself. Kinga, welcome. How are you doing today?
Hi, Teresha. I'm really good, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a real honor and privilege to be your first guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I know that this is going to be an amazing discussion that we're going to have because you do some incredible things. So please do tell everybody who is watching, who is listening, a bit about yourself, who you are and what you do.
So as you introduced me, I'm a yoga teacher. I've been a yoga teacher probably for about 4 or 5 years now, and practitioner for over 12 years. And yeah, so as a yoga teacher, I'm teaching beginners yoga, hatha, yin. I teach in corporate settings, and then I teach pregnancy yoga, postnatal yoga. And I recently done my corporate wellbeing coaching course as well. So I'm trying to expand on my yoga knowledge and just kind of promote well-being holistically for people, to make it accessible in different environments and different people. Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. What got you into yoga then?
That was my own experience. So I started yoga when I came to London in 2004. Okay. And I think because I was always like an overthinker and a worrier, so I was always just lost in my thoughts.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends were saying, it's like, oh, you should start meditating or something to help you just to chill out a bit. And back then I was like, well, I can't really switch off my thoughts and it's just not happening. And then I went to a yoga class, and that was the first time where I experienced like movement and breathing in a way that I could feel like there's nothing else on my mind, just focusing on my body moving and how I breathe. And that felt like a really cool experience, like, okay, finally there's something that actually makes me switch off a bit, and all I'm focusing on is my body and my mind, my breath. So that's how I kind of got into it, and it felt really good. And then that's how I started practicing. And then a couple of years after, I had a really good teacher who was sharing snippets of the whole yoga philosophy, and I wanted to go deeper with it. Okay. And I thought, I'm going to do yoga teacher training just for my own benefit, so I can learn a little bit deeper about yoga and what's behind it all. And that's when I did my first yoga teacher training course. And it was a 10-month experience. So it was really good, and it was a great opportunity to actually experience and implement what you're learning into your everyday life. Yeah. So it was a great kind of shift and experience about my own self, like learning about myself. So, and then after that, I thought like, this is great. It would be really good to share it. And at the time I was working in financial services in banking. Okay. And then I started teaching at work, and it was really well received. And then from there, it's just grew.
What an amazing journey, because what you were saying there about the overthinking, worrying kind of state of mind, so many of us find ourselves there just because of responsibilities, life that takes place, and everything along that lines. So how does yoga help the mind-body connection?
I'm going to say initially breathing helps with the connection, but I think there's a lot. I would shift it a little bit, because I would probably talk more about the yoga of the heart.
Ooh.
So I find it like there's a lot of focus on the mind, which is important because the mind is really powerful.
Yes.
And then even now I'm just like doing hypnobirthing and the positive language, and then what you have in your mind and your thoughts actually does reflect on sensations in your body and the physical body and the experiences, the bodily physical experiences. So mind is a powerful thing. But I always felt like we get lost in our minds a lot, and we overthink a lot. And then when you kind of bring it down to your heart, I feel like the heart always knows.
Wow, yes.
You kind of overthink in your mind, but deep down in your heart, you already know what's going on. And I find that experience for me was such a relief in a way, because I just find like, you know what, my thoughts are going to be going on forever.
Yeah.
But deep down, if you listen to your heart, or you call it instinct or whatever, you already know. And there's no confusion.
That's such a lovely way of thinking about it, because I would absolutely, I mean, what you said there, I agree with. It resonates with me completely, because the heart truly does know. And I feel that with so much going on in our lives, with the mind, the monkey mind, trying to do every single thing, that we don't often take time and take stock of what is happening here in our heart center. So are you saying that it's the breath that connects us to the heart space that allows us to then connect to the movement of yoga? Am I understanding?
That's a bit kind of. So I think, okay, if I need to simplify the experience, but I think everyone's, whatever works, I think. So everyone is different, everyone's unique, and everyone's got their own experiences, and everyone can find whatever works.
Yeah.
I think if you want to start exploring, because I feel like this whole yoga is a self-exploration, and it's only creating that space for yourself to feel within. And that normally starts on a physical level when you do your yoga practice, like doing the physical poses. And that's where it all starts to kind of, you start noticing and recognizing, you start feeling into your body. And then focusing on your breath creates that space, I find, where you create that connection and create a space where you can breathe a little bit. So you kind of just focusing on your breath and then moving and flowing with the breath creates that kind of smoother experience where you shift, and all of a sudden I find while you move and breathe, whatever goes in your mind, it doesn't really matter anymore, because you're shifting the focus on there. And then if you go into scientifically a little bit more into breathing with a deeper breath, if you start focusing your breathing on a deeper and slower level, it activates your parasympathetic nervous system. So it creates that calming effect, just to simplify it. So it does kick in your relaxation response in your body, and that helps you to calm the mind and helps you to kind of ease the body as well.
Amazing. Because everything that you're saying there about the whole self-exploration of everything, like all of the components on a holistic basis, because before I understood a little bit more about yoga through following your work, I just saw lots of fancy yoga poses. And I thought to myself, there's no way my body is going to get in me to any of those positions. It looks really complicated. It looked like a skill that you really had to hone in on. And you just see lots of perfect shapes, people looking like a scorpion and all that kind of stuff. And it can be quite daunting, because if you don't have necessarily the physique as well that you see all over the Western world and all of this perfect image, it can look like it's not for me. So how do you encourage somebody who is a complete beginner to get into yoga and give them the reassurance that it can work for everybody?
Well, I find it really disturbing that, that's the perception. And I'm trying to go against that in a way that, it's all about you and it's all about your body. So there's always options and there's always alternatives. And then that you can use for your own body. And it's not about the fancy yoga poses. It's about how you feel in the pose and the deeper effects. And then you can achieve that with different options of different poses. And it's more about, draw that awareness. And then I think awareness, self-awareness is really powerful, and not just on a physical level, but on a mental or emotional level as well.
Yeah.
And then once you build that and you start practicing, and that's a really funny way of exploring as well, because like if you look at your reaction to this, that's a nice exploration as well. Well, why do I think like that? Yeah. Would I be able to explore in a different way? And then why is my mind taking me down that route? And then it's most of the people would feel like that.
Yeah.
If you look at all these videos and poses and everything. But that's why even if you go to a class, some people try and keep up. Or why can I not do that? Or why can I? That's another exploration. It's like, well, do I have to? And why am I forcing it? Or is it just my experience in my body and the rest doesn't really matter?
Yeah.
So there's a lot into it that you can be so curious about, and then look at it in a curious and explorative way instead of putting pressure on yourself with your practice.
Yeah.
Even if you feel into like, yes, you do have to have some guidance around safety and then exploring and knowing your anatomy so you can do the poses safely and you can find alternatives. So that's fine, but ultimately this is your experience and your feeling of it all.
Yeah.
And the rest doesn't really matter. So
I completely concur with what you're saying there, because I remember when I was working with you personally, and I had a situation where I just kept getting cramp in my feet. And the way that you encouraged me in order to be able to navigate the cramp and the positions as well. So perhaps, put your foot in that position rather than in that position. And that's the benefit as well that I found from working with you personally on a one-to-one basis as well, is that you were able to tailor the approach. So it's not a one size fits all type approach. No. And I think that's the fantastic thing. If people can understand that for yoga and everything that it can bring, to know that it's not a one size fits all. It's what works for you. And what works for your body, what works for your heart space. So that was a key learning for me for that. It's all part of self-love and self-care. And I'm so into the way in which feminine energy can work too. And I really believe that our body is the home of our feminine energy.
That's a really powerful thing with yoga as well, because yoga, ultimately, if you look back on it, it was quite a male-oriented practice. And then if you look at the rigid practices of it, it's not necessarily for the woman's body. And it's not necessarily recognizing the cycles and the feminine energies and the cycles in women's lives. And I had a really, really good teacher in Bali, and she was the one, we did a couple of women's circles, and I did a course with her about unwinding the feminine and how you can really tailor your practice to your different stages in your cycle.
Amazing.
And I think, wow, that was really powerful for me anyway, because that's just a personal journey for me, because that was the point when I stopped my contraception and I wanted to get back to my bleed.
Yes.
And I wanted to experience the whole period, and then I wanted to get back into my cycle, and then started journaling around it, and then started practicing different yoga at different stages of my cycle and my bleed. And I do truly believe, but that's just my personal experience, that helped me to reconnect with my body. And I believe that helped me to get into a state where I could conceive and get pregnant. I believe in that because I'm 41, and I think that whole reconnection and getting back to my bleed and just recognizing the different energies and different kind of stages in your women's cycle, it's really powerful.
It is. And it's only something that I really have started to focus on myself recently is the pattern of my menstrual cycle and the seasons, because I said there's 4 seasons within the menstrual cycle to really hone in. So for me, I know for some, because I love going to the gym. So when I go to the gym, I sometimes feel, so how can I not push that weight today in comparison to last week? And now I started to connect the menstrual cycle with the certain capabilities of my body and my physiology at that time. I can really understand a lot more about that. So you saying how the understanding of your menstrual cycle, connecting it to yoga practice as well, how that for you, it felt like that had a really powerful connection to help you to conceive, because you're working. And I don't sometimes think that people really understand or are too aware of the power of energy.
I think there's a lot in our modern life that suppress the natural cycles of life. If you look at it like, we are controlling, we are trying to control it. Like if you look at the seasons, if you look at the weather, if you look at dark and light, we've got lights, we've got heating, we've got air conditioning. So, there's a lot of artificial control over the natural cycles in life. And I think we got lost in touch with our natural cycles.
Yeah.
As in a kind of macro and microcosmic level. I think it's both there. And I think there's a lot going on in our world where we just need to, even if you think about people stopping.
Yes.
It can be really uncomfortable for people to have that space of silence and stillness to really explore what's going on, because people rather just keep going and going and going instead of taking that time off what's going on. And like you were talking about exercising in the gym, you need to respect and honor your different stages in your cycle, and you can't keep just pushing through it. And there's science behind it. There's a lot of really good articles, like professional sports people using their cycles and awareness of the cycles for their sports kind of optimum performance and things like that. So really tuning into your own kind of, cycles or your own self, really powerful.
It does. And it allows us to be gentle with ourselves, I think. Is that self-acknowledgement that comes with it and the menstrual cycle, so that you don't necessarily beat yourself up and you can be in flow with the cycle rather than working against it.
Totally.
It's taking time to understand it. Because
and talk about self-care, and there's a lot of, it's become really trendy, and I think a lot of people don't allow themselves to rest because they find it's not productive, because we're always like, we need to be productive, and then I just can't stop and rest and do nothing. But there's power in resting, especially if want to kind of regain your energies, and in certain periods, like it's needed.
Definitely. So the power of the pause, I think, is so important. Rest, because yes, I agree, sometimes that downtime can feel like you're not being productive. However, there is so much power, I would say, in that downtime that makes you even more effective and even more productive when you allow that pause. So in terms of self-care and self-love and everything like that, and I know it's all tailored to each person, is there an ideal time of day to practice yoga?
No.
Okay.
You kind of figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
So I personally like morning silent meditations. I find the best, because you're in that state where you kind of almost stay half asleep. So you kind of alert but not fully awake. So it's perfect time to kind of maybe get up early mornings, and before you look at your phone or anything, just sit up and then just have 5 minutes, 2 minutes of silent meditation, just to give yourself that space that we were talking about. Now there's different, it's different to practice in the morning and different to practice in the evening. if you wish and you want to practice in the morning, I would probably advise kind of upward, kind of waking up the energies and then ending up like starting slowly and then end up with something more energetic, and then you're fresh and awake. And then when you get into the evening, it's the other way around. So you probably had a busy day. You might want to just shake it off and then be a bit more energetic, but then drawing it down a little bit. So winding it down at the end with some relaxation and breathing or something like that. So it all depends really. And it doesn't have to be a long practice either. You know, even 10 minutes is useful. So, yeah, but I think everyone's different, you know, like the people, like I'm quite an early bird, so I'm quite energetic, productive in the mornings, not so much in the evening. So everyone's got their different kind of circadian rhythms as well. So it's good to just explore and play with it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that you've been working with corporate as well. So are there any yoga moves that somebody who works in a busy office can do at their desk?
Yeah, there's some chair yoga.
There is. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Because I do feel that in those busy, stressful environments, especially if, you know, you are quite a high-flying business person as well, with lots of pressure on you, that if there's something that you can do in the moment in order to do some form of yoga practice, it's good to know that there are things that you can do at your desk.
Yeah, so I normally just run lunchtime sessions, half an hour.
Okay.
And they are either deep relaxation and yoga nidra, so literally just taking a break and then go into deep relaxation and some breathing. Or I've started doing these little midweek stretches Wednesday lunchtimes, and then you can do it at your desk basically. And then it's a little bit of a chair yoga. Yeah. So it's yeah, that's what I mean. It's like you can really fit into everything, and it's quite a useful thing to just have a little break.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to get away from your desk a little, because otherwise you would never do it all day.
Yeah.
So that deep relaxation session is quite good. And then sometimes you just want to stretch out your body a little bit, and then you can do that too. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. So I'm going to circle back, because you have mentioned on our lovely discussion that you conceived. You are pregnant.
I'm pregnant.
You are pregnant. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I want to move into talking about relationships now, if that's all good with you. Okay.
Yeah, all good with me.
Fantastic.
Where do I start?
As I said, if there's anything, because relationships are such a sensitive area as well, and it takes a lot for people to open up and talk very vulnerably about relationships. And I feel that the benefit of this podcast will be to talk about relationships in the way that is very safe, and to know that everyone's experience is going to be unique to them. And there is usually some form of lesson or learning that comes from our experiences. So I'm going to ask you, reflecting back on some of your relationships, both current and also past, how would you describe your experiences that you've had?
I probably had more bad experiences than good, if I need to look at an overall summary.
Yeah.
It's a funny one. Yeah. So I think so I'm originally from Hungary, and I came to London, and then we had that period at the time. I was 24 when I came to London. And then we had that time of we just go out and enjoy ourselves. And then I think very early I got into my really first serious relationship here in London. And I was with the guy for 4 years. And I think, again, we talk about relationship, it's more a self-reflection that I got into when you kind of talked about let's have a chat. And I reflected a lot on I think I had these patterns in finding relationships and trying to so I had a serious relationship for 4 years, and the guy was super lovely, but I felt like towards the end of that, he wouldn't be someone I can rely on in relationship as an equal partner in such a way of a team together. And I got to a point after 4 years where I felt like I know it sounds really bad, but I just felt like if we were to have a family and have kids, he would be just another child and not a partner in the relationship. And I would be the one who would just kind of take responsibility for everything. And that's why I kind of ended that. There was nothing wrong with the guy, and he was super lovely. So, and after that, I had a long period where I just felt like I'm searching for something and I'm not finding the right person. And I had one bad experience after the other and the other and the other. And I felt like I got to a point, well, I think it was more in my late 30s, when I kind of, you can say, desperate in a way. I really wanted to find someone serious.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, it never really happened. And I seem to have been drawn to people that were not really good for me.
Okay.
And I thought that after a couple of experiences where I felt like, I find in London and in the UK, it's really, really difficult to actually build a relationship where you can trust the person, because it's such a big place that you're not going to be able to really know the person or their lives unless you live together. And even then, anything can happen, because I think it's easy to have a double life or whatever. And I think because it's a big place, people can really just project a life to you and then live another life. So I experienced that as well with some of the guys that I've been dating. And the funny thing was that I never really given up. And it toughened me up, even about the experiences. I felt like at the time, yes, it was hurtful. And at the time, I felt like this is never going to happen. But I got through a point where I'm still open, and I still kept I was always open. And I think I was a little bit naive as well, probably, to being so open. But I felt like I've never been a person to play games. And I felt like even when my friends were like, well, you need to kind of, take your time, and you need to really suss out what's going on, and you need to play these games off, like, and I was like, I can't do it. So it is what it is. I'm quite like a straightforward person, and I'm like that in relationships, and I give it my all from probably day one. And I knew that that's the type of person I am, and I'm quite affectionate, quite emotional. And if it's not going to work, I experienced it before I can handle it. Like, I got through it before I can get through it again. Okay. So that's how I kind of shifted in my views. Yeah. But I felt like I never really changed myself, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So even though I had bad experiences, I felt like I am who I am, and I might get hurt, but I still keep going. So, and then I did have like funny experiences, and I thought that after a couple of bad experiences, I have this radar to recognize, if something is not okay. And I think sometimes we do that, and sometimes we do feel that something is not okay, but you still hang on to it a little bit, like, maybe he's going to change. Maybe, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just thinking too much into it. But down the line, you already felt it, that there's something was not okay there, but you kind of kept going with it, that maybe it's going to change. So I had those as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah. And then, so I had those for years and years and years. I had one that was pretty bad emotionally. I'm not going to say emotional abuse, but my friends were kind of picking up the pieces. Okay. Because I didn't even notice that I was so down all the time, and I was crying all the time, and they were the ones like shaking me up. It's like, what is going on? Okay. Like, there's things that you just shouldn't really put up with it and you should notice it. And I said, yeah, okay, fair enough. So friends are really important to have that support as well. And yeah, and then I had funny experiences as well. I had like online dating. I had years on online dating as well, and that was like from catfish to whatever it is, name it. But looking back at it, I think it's great to have those experiences, good or bad. It wasn't like anything dangerous or anything like that. So, but there was a funny one when I was dating with this guy, and then he literally messaged my friend on online dating site, and my friend's like, "Is that not the guy that you dated?"
Oh no!
Small world, but it's good that it happened, isn't it?
Of course. Did you call him out? Did you say to him, "Hey, mate, what are you doing here? That's my friend."
Yeah, and that's my naivety, because I'm telling you, so that at the time we had a couple of dates.
Okay.
And then I wanted to end it. And then I think he came with flowers and everything. And then the reason why I didn't end it, because we never discussed that we are exclusive or anything. We were at the very beginning of the relationship. And I thought, you know what? We are both online, and so whatever. And at that time, we discussed, okay, this is it. If we are serious, let's be serious. And so I thought we were. And we were together for 6 months, and Christmas came. And I remember on Boxing Day, I kept getting calls from an unknown number. Okay. And I never answer calls to unknown numbers. So, and after a while, it changed to a landline. So I answered that. And he was another woman. And apparently he's been with that woman for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
And that's the one that I'm saying that I did not see that coming at all. Yeah. And I thought I would have. I thought I would have noticed it in whatever signs, and I didn't. And that's when I started to doubt myself that I thought I would know by now.
Yeah.
And it was a funny one because I stayed at his place. So nothing was suspicious at all.
Yeah.
I talked to him all the time. And that's why I think it's not easy, I think, here in the UK, because you would never know. You would never know.
Yeah. There's so much, I guess, opportunities for people to be very deceptive in the dating and relationship arena. Now, of course, not all relationships are like that, but there are a lot of common factors that can cause a lot of mistrust, a lot of deception, and you think you know somebody and they turn out not to be who you thought they were going to be. And there were a few things that you spoke about there. So you spoke about maybe red flags. You didn't use the word red flags, but there are a few things that perhaps you ignored during those times. Can you describe some of those things that you ignored?
Well, the obvious thing was like messaging someone else, you know.
Yeah.
But if we go back to the previous ones, there was a lot of times when, like, for example, I was meant to meet the person and it was never a confirmed thing. It's like, yeah, I'm going to see you tonight. And then hours later, it's like, oh, sorry, I can't make it. And so things like that, you know. And then first you thought like, well, he gave me a good reason, but it's got out of hand so much, because it's got to a point when he was telling me all sorts of stories, whether it was true or not. I would never. The point is that you don't show, and you put me in a position of, I'm starting to question myself, and I'm starting to feel really vulnerable and emotionally very messed up, you know. So little bits and pieces like that. I think going to the extremes, I think rushing into things. So I felt like someone standing here now, it just reminds me of this Netflix thing, this Tinder swindler thing.
Yes.
When you meet someone and then straight away in a week's time, like in a couple of weeks, he says, oh, I love you and you're the one, and things like that. And then you kind of just go with the emotions at the time, but it's really strange. So at the same time you go with the emotions, you feel a bit awkward about it. Like I did, because I was like, oh, that's really sweet, but like, come on.
Yeah.
So things like that, they just like, it's flattering, but there's something just not okay about it.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I think it's just, I'm quite straightforward and upfront, and that's what I would have expected from men as well, you know. And then if it's kind of not happening, it shortens my period. Because of my experience, it kind of shortened my period. I stay with the guy because I'm not here to waste my time. And if I'm straightforward and telling you that this is what I'm looking for, without desperation, just having a normal conversation, I think it's nice to just, you know, be honest about what you're looking for from the offset. And if it's not happening, then it's better not to waste each other's time.
Yeah.
So,
completely agree with you on that, because setting boundaries and knowing what your standards are, because what you said is that you never change. You didn't feel the need to change yourself as a person. You just had all of these different external circumstances and factors that weren't ideal for you. And things like setting boundaries is so key. And communication, I would say, because some people are really nervous about actually communicating their wants and needs at the start of a relationship. And for example, that whole, are we exclusive, are we not? Some people can stay in that setting for such a long time, to the point where you don't know if you are exclusively dating or you're not. It's because you haven't communicated what the vision is, you know, from a get-go. This is what I'm looking for. And I always say, if you have that conversation with somebody and they're not on that same wavelength of you, then don't waste your time. Don't waste your energy in that situation. But people do that. And I'm not saying that you did that, because fear of loneliness, for example, there's a little bit of desperation. Oh, well, you know, will I ever be with somebody? You know, the older we get as well, sometimes it's a bit like, but am I actually going to be by myself forever? And we end up...
another thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to cut you, but it's the age as well and the older, because then I just started to feel, and it changes. The scene is changing. Like if I look at my 20s, 30s, and then late 30s, you kind of start thinking, okay, I need to broaden my options here. And then again, it's boundaries, isn't it? So I'm thinking, this is just my personal view and experience.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, am I going to be able to, you know, I'm at an age where I probably date with men who might have children already. Am I going to be able to do that? Because in my head, I'm looking at my upbringing, my parents, and then their loving relationship and our family. And that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And for me, it was really difficult to accept that someone might have done that with someone else already. And I'm not going to be the first person to give that to them. And I did date a guy who had a child before. Now I'm not really sure if at the end of it all he was serious or not about things. But when it got to a point of him using his child as an excuse, that's how I felt to me, not meeting me or spending time with me, and then throwing it to me that I wouldn't understand because I don't have children. That's when I drew the line of, right, that's not working either way. Yeah. I'm not saying that it wouldn't have worked with someone else with a child, but I felt like this is more on me, not the other person, because I think maybe that's just not working for me. Because in my head, I would always have that feel of like, well, you already had something with someone else.
Yeah.
And I would always feel second, if that makes sense. Not in a bad way, but it's just that feeling inside of me. And then I dated before this relationship that I'm in right now, I was with someone who was not old, like 42. And we seemed to have been on the same page, and we discussed what we want. And I thought we were on the same page, because I said, look, this is where I am, and I want to move in, and I want to have a family and kids. He didn't have kids. And then the discussion led to an agreement that, yeah, we both want that. But then it got to a point towards the end when some things just not felt right. And it felt like he's shutting down a little bit.
Okay.
While I became more and more excited about our future together, he seemed to be backing off quite a bit. And I couldn't really figure out what was that about. To a point when it got to a point of, he said he's not really up for a relationship, let alone having a family. Okay. And I was like, well, okay then. We had to wait for this long, but fine. You know, and it wasn't an easy one at the time, because I really went off with my imagination or dreams. I don't know. Sometimes we do that as well. I think that we just kind of, this is really what I want, and you try to fit it onto your relationship, and then you notice that, no, that's not reality. It's in your head that you want all these things, but it's not going to happen with that person. And I'm happy that he said that, because that would be in reverse to just go along the ride, and then down the line turning out that, oh, I don't want this, and he walks out of me with a child or two, you know?
Yeah.
So
completely. Did that take you having a conversation with him, or did he just land that on you out of the blue?
Well, that was a time when everything shifted at the same time for me. So, you know, when we talk about like energies and all that, so that was a funny time for me, because I felt like I was stuck in my life, work, career. I thought I was in a good place with the relationship, but something just didn't feel 100%. So everything just felt a bit off. And I had this plan for my career, for my love life, everything, this route, which is clear and it's going that way. And all of a sudden, it just all fell apart at the same time. And funny enough, I didn't feel bad about it, because it just felt like I'm forcing something that's just not happening, you know what I mean? And then it's just like you're going, but you hit a wall, and you feel miserable and you're not happy, but you don't know the reason why.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was like I could take redundancy from work.
Yeah.
And the guy said he needs a break to think things through. And I was there and I was like, you know what? This is the perfect opportunity for me to go to Bali and then go to Bali and then do some yoga.
Yeah.
And then that was when everything just kind of shifted. And in a matter of weeks, it just all worked itself out. And then it was mainly a phone conversation while I was away, when the guy told me that, look, this is not working. And I was like, wow, good thing I'm away. So not the best way, but at least I was happy, because first, like, I felt like he's honest, you know what I mean? And he's finally communicating and telling me how he feels, because that's why I was struggling, because he was like, I know something is off, but he never really said what's going on. And that's what makes it more difficult. And the fact that he told me, not the right place and time, probably on the phone, but maybe that's what's easier for him, you know?
Okay.
And then we came back. I came back and then we met. He helped me with moving and bits and pieces. So he wasn't like, he was all right. But I was happy that he did that. Again, not to waste my time, you know, because I felt like I already wasted a year. So I'd rather you tell me now and I can move on.
I totally hear that. And I almost feel that because you had a vibrational shift as well, because you were picking up, like you said earlier, like we have these radars that we send off. And because you felt an energetic shift in him, and because you were so deeply connected, you had a bond, you had an energetic bond between you guys because you guys were in a relationship. So when you started to feel a difference, he probably felt that you knew something was happening, and it pulled him more closer to have that conversation with you. Probably not ideal because you were away, and luckily you were in a hopefully a good place like Bali to be able to be at peace and calm. But it's almost like your energy probably worked in your favor to protect you from that situation so that you could be released from that situation there. And
I feel like, I think you mentioned this a couple of times in your Insta little videos. It's like, I feel like you really need to work on yourself and be okay with yourself and love yourself first before expecting it from someone else. Because I feel like after going to Bali and kind of, things shifted a big time, and then I felt such like a weight off my shoulders in a way, and coming back and then being okay with not having a plan and being okay with everything that I thought is going to take me that way falling apart and then taking me somewhere else that turns out to be even better, you know, because sometimes we just hold on to something that's not really making us happy, but we just hold on to it because we hope that this is it and there's nothing else.
absolutely,
When you just kind of let that go, then there's other doors opening.
absolutely.
And,
I was going to say
that's what I think that happened when I came back. I felt like I was in a different place with myself, and I just felt like careless in a way, you know, like not in a negative way, but like this carefree, like, you know, everything is easy, everything is light, everything is going to happen the way it's going to happen. And I think being in that state and meeting my current partner at that state just kind of drew the energy in, you know, and then drew someone in who was open to that. And here we are. Yeah.
Because you've had a journey, and you spoke about, you know, when you can be in a relationship with somebody and you have your imagination and you have your hopes and your dreams about the future, then when that is stripped away from us, sometimes we can feel a real sense of loss for that and for our dreams, for our future. And doing that inner work to heal, to be able to shift our vibration to attract like the relationship you have now, takes a lot of inner work. So what would you say you did in order to actually get to that? Were there actually any practices that you did in order to?
Well, I'm going to say, and I know it sounds cliche, but for me, yoga worked. It's just going within, you know, I say yoga, for me, it is a deeper practice, not just physically, but the whole kind of reconnecting with myself, you know, and then spending time with myself and focusing on myself. And really just taking that time, doing my different practices, journaling and yoga, and then reconnecting with my cycles. It's another kind of me time, you know what I mean? It's just spending that time with myself to be in a state of, you know, this is my life and let me enjoy it, and just going with the flow a little bit instead of being rigid about plans and future. Just enjoying what is. And I know you talk about it's really difficult, and of course at the time it hurts, and I'm used to that as well, and I cry a lot and I'm down a lot, but I know that I got through it before, and that's what I'm always kind of gaining energy from, because I went through breakups and heartache so many times. And we often forget about that, and you just need to know that you can handle it, you know what I mean? Like, just go with it, feel the feels, knowing that you're going to get through that and you're going to come out stronger and happier. because you've done it before and you can handle it, you know, because I just feel like sometimes we can feel really sorry for ourselves and that we just messed it up again and it didn't work again. But you just need to kind of keep that faith and stay open a little bit, because I think bad experiences can shut you down. Yeah. And I think it's important to be still open to opportunities, because you just don't know.
Totally feel that, what you're saying there, because it's all about our beliefs, isn't it? And what we believe about ourselves and what we believe about our capabilities. So to say that I've done it before, so I can do it again, that's all about your belief system. It's like you have to build up all of the evidence and all of the reference points to back up your belief, to say, I've done it before. This may be a slow journey, but it's going to be a journey in order for me to get to a point where I feel better about myself and I can do it. And I always say that sometimes we have these experiences which we don't, we're not vibrational in alignment with, or that bring us down, but they're there to crack us wide open so that we can become more resilient. You know, we can have that mental resilience, we can have that emotional resilience, so that we can continue, because it's a journey, it's not a destination. We are growing people, we're evolving in everything that we do. But it's so lovely to hear that you are now in a relationship, and it's great, because how should I phrase this? Okay, how is it different to the experiences that you had before?
It's easy from day one, I find. It's just kind of course we've got our life and then sort it out, but I just feel like our relationship, whatever happens, it kind of went effortlessly at the beginning, if that makes sense. And then I felt like it was funny because my friends were visiting me a couple of months ago, and we were chatting about how we used to go out back then and everything. And then my friend was like, yeah, Kinga, you were on a proper mission. You know, we always just went out, and then if you didn't see or meet anyone, you would just go home. That you were like on a mission to just find someone. It's like, oh wow, really? That bad? Yeah. So the girls' night out was more a mission to find someone. Yeah. And yeah, it's a bit of a forced thing, isn't it? I don't know. So we met online with my current partner. And I was in that mood on that day. I remember I was in a good mood. The weather was pretty nice. And then we just went for a walk, and we had a walk and talk, and the time just flew by, and it just felt really easy. And then any other time, we had like 5 dates before lockdown. Yeah. So that's another thing. Like I said, maybe that's another thing that helps. And I'll tell you a really funny story about that. Yeah. So yeah, we had a couple of dates and it was brilliant, but he was always so caring, you know. And then that was really nice, that it wasn't an awkward caring, but someone who really cared. Yeah. Like checking on me and messaging me, and then that was just so nice. And yeah, basically we had a couple of days and lockdown came, and it was really funny because one of my friends was saying to me before that, wow, there's this is it a book? 90 Days or 90?
Is it about dating?
Yeah, it's about dating. There's this, and you would probably know the name, and I'm going to be you can cut this out. It's a black guy who gives relationship advice in America, and he's got a book.
It's not Stefan.
How to.
Oh, I'm just trying to think. There's Steve. I can't remember.
And then there's a movie about it as well. Like, basically, you shouldn't be sleeping with the guy for 100 days or 90 days.
Or the Wall kind of book. Yeah, I'm sure there's a guy called Steve.
So my friend was referring to that. Yeah. And she was saying you should really just take your time and not sleep with the person and really just get to know each other and this and that. And it's like, yeah, okay. And then I met this guy, and then we went on 5 dates, and lockdown hit in. So I went to my friend messaging, is like, well, is that something to do with fraud? I'm not going to meet him now, so I'm not going to sleep with him for like 90 days.
Yeah.
I think we went to 87 days or something like that.
Oh, you counted. That's amazing.
No, but the point was like, it was lockdown basically, and we kept in touch and we got to know each other. So whether that played a part, I don't know. But
yeah.
It might have.
I think it can do, because a lot of reasons why relationships can get off to a great start is when you build up that emotional connection first with somebody, rather than the whole physical sign of it. And with no judgment at all as to how soon you sleep with somebody or not, there is weight in getting to know somebody and build that connection. And perhaps it was the universe in your favor to say, we're going to do this time, Kinga. We're going to do this for you. We're going to make it so that you physically are unable so that you can be in that long-term, sustainable, happy, loving relationship. So maybe the universe brought this all on just for you. For your happy.
Well, yeah, that's what happened basically. And then, and here we are.
And here you are, which is absolutely amazing. So
it's really nice because, like, as I was saying, like, I'm quite straightforward. And I remember after the couple of days, I literally told him that, look, this is where I am right now. He's younger than me. And I said to him, this is where I am right now. I'm ready to find someone to settle down with. I do want to have a family. And if this is not where you are currently, then we better leave it, because I don't really have time to see what happens. You know, like when you get into something, it's like, well, let's just see what happens. Like if I was in my 20s, 30s, maybe I would wait a year or two to see what happens. But and he stayed and he was well up for it. So
you communicated. You communicated from the get-go. You know what your standards are, you know what your non-negotiables are, you know what your boundaries are, and you said it from the start. And if that person is aligned with it, just like your partner is at the moment, then it can feel effortless. Like you said, it's just easy, it's just effortless. And some people don't understand that, because they think, okay, I've done online apps before, it's not going to work. But I truly believe it's the vibration and the energy that you bring behind it. This time that you were on the app, you were in a good place. You had done your inner work. You were feeling that peace, perhaps. And so it was ready. Like you were ready.
Well, my advice about online dating, I would say that I wouldn't go into never-ending conversations online. So if it's online dating, I would use the platform to connect, and then as soon as possible, exchange numbers, have a full conversation, and then meet up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go into weeks of chatting online and things like that. Just not. I don't.
That's exactly what I would encourage too, because I actually did a video recently this week, which is about how to avoid time wasters and narcissists. And one of the key things that I say within that video is to move that communication on quickly, because if you want to have a pen pal, as I say, and you just you're having a communication, that's fine, but there needs to be some form of progress. And if somebody makes a reason or an excuse as to why they can't, or they don't want to meet up with you, or even move to a telephone call, I think that's a warning sign, red flag. Are we just going to stick in this situation forever? So it's being so clear about what our values are, what our needs are, our wants, our expectations as well, and communicating that from the start, I would say, so that you don't waste your time and you don't encounter, some people. It is all about that deeper understanding of yourself and knowing that. So how would you define love in your own words?
Oh, I don't know if I can give you a definition, but love for me is everything. And I'm not saying that as love as a relationship, but love for your family, for your friends, for human-like connections, and just kind of, I think love, it's all about love in my view anyway. It might sound a bit cliche and naive, but I think that's the kind of ultimate energy.
Yeah.
And then just kind of, yeah, I think it's we lack a lot of love, and I think people just need a bit of love. Shift things around. So
yeah. Is there a certain way that you behave when you're in love? Have you noticed you do certain things?
well, I smile a lot, I think. I feel probably like light and effortless, and then just content.
Yeah.
It's
like a lovely feeling. It's like content, smiling as well. That's a lot of what I hear. And I know that when I'm in that place as well, it's just like the beams and just floaty. Floaty, but an element of groundedness as well, to feel grounded in that energy as well. And I ask that question because love can be defined so differently by each person, and there's no right or there's no wrong. It's just whatever makes you feel safe as well, and makes you feel at peace and makes you feel happy, and all of these juicy feelings that we can get when we are in love there.
And it's like, I think there's love in little things as well. I think those little moments, and I'm not really talking about like you and your partner necessarily, but even like as a mother or a child, or if you look at like old people or someone showing kindness and like little things, when you spot little things and then it warms your heart, that kind of feeling.
Isn't definitely so. It's like an awareness piece, isn't it? It's to notice what warms up your heart, to notice what brings you joy, to notice what makes you smile, the small things on a daily basis, whether you're walking outside and you see something and you think, oh, that's so lovely. Or someone does something for you, and it's actually being in that receptive mode for me as well, is being in that receptive mode, because sometimes you can get a wonderful compliment, but you don't actually sit down and really receive the love. You acknowledge it, but sometimes you don't actually sit down and think, oh, that's lovely. It's so transactional. Oh, thank you very much, that means so much. But actually to sit down and receive the love, it's such
because we might not, there's a thing about that as well. So like, because sometimes depending on what type of person you are as well, but mostly we find it easier to give than to receive. And there's a lot about with the breath connection there as well.
Definitely that receptive energy to bring in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of wrap up our conversation, because I've had you just dropped so many insights and gems that I know that people who are watching or listening are going to sit back and say, I completely relate with that. Like, oh my goodness. And particularly what you said as well about the breath and yoga and everything like that. So I would love for you to leave everybody who is listening or watching with one key lesson or learning to help them on their journey of love, life, relationships, whatever they want. What's that one thing that they can take away, would you say?
Despite all the experiences, just be open to opportunities and don't shut down, and know that you can handle it. I
love that. That's so empowering. Do you hear that, everybody? Know that you can handle it, be open, and just really lean into love, whatever that might be. Just lean. I actually think that's something you said to me, actually, Kinga, in one of our conversations. It was about leaning
into it.
Leaning into it. And
that's what I feel like. Sometimes, you go into your planned route and then all of a sudden you're hit by something else. And sometimes you just need to put your hands up and just lean into wherever it takes you.
Flow with it. See where you end up. Oh, Kinga, this has been such an amazing conversation. Thank you.
Really nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It's nice to talk about something else apart from yoga.
Yeah, to talk about life and experiences, because we can all learn from each other. We can all grow in this, because we have a relationship with everything, not just people. Everything that we do, we are having a relationship with. We're having a relationship with yoga. We're having a relationship with food, having a relationship with our body, whatever it is. So I really do value your time in sharing your experiences, because from that we can take our insights and we can grow and we can learn, we can thrive together. So thank you so much. I would love for you to tell everybody who is listening or watching how they can find out more about what you do and any sort of like social media platforms that you're on. That'd be great.
I'm mainly on Instagram, so you can find me on Instagram, reach out on Instagram. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and they search for your name. Is it Kinga you're under?
It's Vidya Kinga Yoga.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the links to Kinga's socials so that you'll be able to connect with her there. And I want to say all the best with the remainder of your pregnancy journey.
Thank you.
I was thinking, are we actually going to have a chance to have this conversation or not? Because you're very close to the end.
I know, 38 weeks. It can happen any time now, but normally it comes later than due date. So.
I was going to say, we'll end this conversation and boom, it's happened.
I'll keep you posted.
Keep us posted, definitely. I would love that. Look, thank you so much again for your conversation. Thank you everyone for listening to the first ever episode of Relationship Talk, the podcast, and look forward to much more juicy conversations with some fantastic people, just like the amazing Kinga, on the show going forward. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care.